Welcome, my friends, to a new episode of Frameworks. Well, in this episode, we're going to talk about the product approach, and we're going to use it to design an IELTS lesson, focusing on task 1 from the general IELTS exam. So let's see this. And to do this, my friends, we have a wonderful book here released by Cambridge University Press. It is called Cambridge English IELTS 9, and it actually contains IELTS exams with the model answers. Wonderful work. Okay, so let's go to a task taken from this book. And as I said, this task is taken from the writing exam in a general IELTS test. So let's have a look at this task. Now, as you see, the task says you're working for a company, you need to take some time off work and want to ask your manager about this. And then it says, write a letter to your manager. In your letter, 3 points. Explain why you want to take time off work. Give details of the amount of time you need. Suggest how your work could be covered while you're away. Nice. So now, when we look at this task, the first thing, as we learned, that we need to do is decide on the topic. And obviously it is taking some time off work. So that is the topic. Now, what should we do in order to create a lesson? Now, normally, as we said in the product approach, the first thing that you need to start with is what we call a lead-in. Now, this lead-in should be about taking some time off work. Someone might say, and the reason why I'm saying this is because some teachers asked me this question before, Shadi, why don't we make our leading about writing letters? I said, because writing letters is not the topic. It is actually the writing skill you need to learn. But the topic here is taking some time off work. And again, let's search the internet and let's go to Google and see what we can find. And here we are. We've got a wonderful website, it's called Coherence, and we have a lovely quotes, time off quotes. And it says, take time off, the world will not fall apart without you. I love that. Again, take time off, the world will not fall apart without you. Now, what can we do with this quote here? One thing you can do is asking your students questions. Like what? Like display that quote on a screen, or maybe write it on the board. And then ask your students a question like, so do you agree with this quote? Is it important to take some time off? Why? Then when you want to take some time off work, what do? Who do you talk to? Do you need to submit some documents? Do you need to write something? And this is how you take your students to the part where they need to write a letter to a manager asking for taking some time off. And that would be your entrance to the lesson. That would be your leading. Good. Now, we also studied together in the product approach that after the leading stage, we need a reading stage. And we said before that this reading stage is for giving an example. We want to give an example to students to follow later by the end of the lesson. Now, wonderful. Where can we get an example here? And my friends, this wonderful book by Cambridge University Press, which is IELTS 9, it gives a model answer for the task. Now let me show you something interesting. This is what they say about the model answer in the book. This model has been prepared by an examiner as an example of a very good answer. Ooh. However, please note that this is just one example of many possible approaches. So again, that's an example prepared by an examiner. Wonderful. Then you can use that, and you can use it for your own favor and for your students' favor as well. How? Let's have a look first at this model answer. And here we are. Lovely. Dear Jennifer, I'm writing to request some unpaid leave next month, and as we see, the answer is divided into 4 paragraphs. Good. Okay. Now, in the reading stage, how can we design questions that would get students to read that email or that letter? Now, one good idea is go back to the question. And let me give you a wonderful and easy idea here. Oh, look at this. This is the original task. And we have 3 main points. Number 1, explain why you want to take time off work. So what you would do as a teacher is you're going to change that point into a question, and the question will be, why does the writer want to take time off work? And then move to the second point. Give details of the amount of time you need. How much time does the writer need? And go to number 3. Suggest how your work could be covered while you're away. So how does the writer plan to cover his or her work? And now you have 3 wonderful questions. And you didn't need to exert much effort in order to come up with this. The 3 bullet points are ready. You just change these bullet points into questions, and Bob's your uncle, you have your reading stage. Someone might say, Shadi, and again, I'm repeating this again, can't we give the model answer to students to read? No, you can't. Because again, as we said, for any listening or reading text given to students in the classroom, they must be accompanied by questions. Because questions are the reasons why your students should listen or read. So here are the questions. Now, so we're done now with the reading stage. So we've got a leading stage now for this IELTS lesson. And we've got now this reading stage. Lovely, good job for that IELTS lesson as well. Now, let's go to the genre analysis stage. As we said before, in the genre analysis stage, you've got 2 things to work on, ideas and language. Let's have a look at the model answer. Let's see how we can use it for genre analysis. And look at this, my friends. Okay, so first, we've got 4 paragraphs. You know what I have in mind? A very easy idea that would support students with what we call coherence. Because coherence is about what? Coherence is about organizing ideas. So you can simply do this. Take the 4 paragraphs, shuffle them, and then give them to your students shuffle. Of course, you will ask your students first to keep the first handout away, which has the model answer. So ask them to put it away and they don't look at it. Then give them another handout with the answer shuffled. So paragraph 4 is number 1 and 2, 3, and then ask them to rearrange it so they have a letter that makes sense. And then they do that. Why this activity would be helpful? Because it will help your students see how this kind of letters should be organized, which is very important in the IELTS exam, of course. Right? Good. Now, another thing we can do, which will help a lot with answering the task, is to design a kind of a chart. And this chart will have 2 columns. In column number 1, you're going to list some points. Like what? Let me take you to the question again. Let's have a look at it. Here we are. So we have 3 main points. Explain why you want to take time off work. Give details of the amount of time you need. Suggest how your work could be covered while you're away. Lovely. So I'm going to take these 3 points and I'm going to add 2 more points. An introduction and a conclusion. So we will have 5 points and I'm going to put them in a column. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the 4 shuffled paragraphs again and put them in a different order in the other column. And the students will need to match. And in this scenario, they will need to match 4 paragraphs to 5 bullet points, which means that 2 bullet points would be in 1 paragraph. Now, why are we doing this? This is again to attract your students' attention to the content of every paragraph. And why the content is important? It is important because this is the task achievement criterion in the IELTS exam. So we want to make sure that the students are covering the 3 points required from them in task 1 in the writing test in the general IELTS exam. Okay, good. So we started with that now. And again, we're covering here ideas. We're not covering language. So can we cover some language in the genre analysis stage? Of course, yes. So let's go again to the model answer given by this wonderful book. And let's see what we have. I'm writing to request. Well, that's a good phrase, isn't it? I'm writing to request some unpaid leave. Okay, next month. Lovely. And then my parents' 60th wedding anniversary is on March the 21st, and they're planning to celebrate this significant achievement with all their children, To do this, they have nice. To participate in this special occasion, I would need to be away. Oh, so that's from work. That's a good expression here. I would need to be away from work. So we have now, I am writing to request. That can be helpful. Okay, in writing a letter like this one, regardless of the occasion itself, I would need to be away from work for, lovely, and from this to that. My schedule for that week is, I love that. Okay, my schedule for that week is relatively light. That can be used. Okay, apart from 2 meetings with clients, lovely. Then we have Netta would be able to attend these in my place. So attend something in my place, that's also a very good expression. As she has had previous dealings with both companies and knows the relevant, I have no other urgent work. Oh, that's a very important phrase. I have no other urgent work commitments at that time. And also we have, I would be very grateful if you could allow me this time. Now, someone might ask, Shadi, how can we use these phrases? How can we introduce these phrases to students? What can be an easy way of doing that? Well, simply, you've got the model answer. Take those phrases out and put them up there in a box and ask students to take them back and put them in the letter, in the right places, in the right spots. And then it becomes an activity. And when you give feedback, comment on each one and each phrase and tell your students why it's an important phrase, why it's a lovely phrase, and why it can be used in other letters like these. And that would be also another language input here. So this way you covered coherence, and you covered as well content, and you covered as well some language that would be helpful. Now it is time for the writing task, and you get the students to do the writing task, give them the 20 minutes to write as they are supposed to be doing in the IELTS exam, and then let's move to feedback. Now, one good way of giving feedback, and as we said, we usually start with content feedback, then we move to language feedback. So what we can do is that we get the students to write emails to one another. So you put them in pairs someone will be an employee and someone will be a manager, and the manager would receive the email, okay? And then after they finish, they respond to those emails, whether they give permission for the employee to take some time off work or not, and why. And that would give value to what your students have already written, because now what they have already produced is sent via an email, so it is very close to what happens in reality. Their friends are responding to this. Let's come now to the language feedback. And then for the language feedback, as I said before, we can do this in a personalized way or in a collective way. We can do it directly or we can do it indirectly. And in the scenario we have now, you can come up with a wonderful idea that would get students in your class to help you with the feedback. Like, for example, we have task achievement. And task achievement, when the students cover all the points required from them, this is something that actually the friends can cover. So you can give them a table like this one, and in that table, in that chart, they have questions to tick. Like what? Like, let me take you back to the first task. And you can say, does the letter have an introduction? Does it have a conclusion? Does the writer explain why he wants to take time off work? Does the writer give details of the amount of time needed? Does the writer suggest how her work could be covered while he or she is away? And then who will be checking this? Peers. They will be checking each other's answers. Now, what is left for you is commenting on language in terms of grammar and in terms of organization, use of cohesive devices and all that. And this is what you're going to do at home. You're going to collect the papers and then you're going to send them feedback. And as we said, it can be personalized, it can be collective. So again, this is the use of the product approach in teaching a task, a writing task from the IELTS exam, specifically task 1 in the general IELTS exam. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you. Bye.